been, keen to be involved in the space ever since then, and contribute to, the growth and acceptance of it. And really back then, like, it was even harder than 2017 to get people to listen to you about it. No one even cared or really understood the nuanced issues that exist, or why Bitcoin needs to exist in the first place. So we've come a long way, and it's fun to like go back and look at some of the stuff I said and wrote back then to just I use Bitcoins a lot plural, which is apparently wrong now. So
it's funny.
It's been a wild ride.
No, it's definitely funny. That's cool. I didn't know that you learned about it first in Bali, and I'm glad to have you in the space and continue to grow it. I think it is people like us. Like, I know that myself and many people on my team left like very prominent industries and very prominent like roles in companies because they were really passionate and they saw how Bitcoin could change things. So as probably the people in this room know, but if you don't know, I'm Eryka Gemma of the Bitcoin Center Miami, where our goal is to educate the masses about this new form of money. What's interesting about Salt is that, or what about the people in this room is that you guys are the ideal market that could benefit off of a product like Salt. So your website says that you guys are the original platform. How old has, or how long has Salt been around?
So we were doing, even as early as like January, February of 2017, we were doing a lot of just testing out the market, demand with really just friends and family. But it was like, the idea was, hey, you have Bitcoin, would you like to unlock that value without having to sell it? And a lot of that originated because the founders of the company had the same problem. They were trying to start a different business. They had Bitcoin because that's how they met, was at a Bitcoin meetup.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were trying to start the business, no bank would accept that as an asset. And it didn't really, it wasn't anything that was tangible that anybody really understood well enough to be able to even, lend against it. So really, January, February 2017 is when we first started doing things. And then we really launched like the actual like first version of the platform was, I think, June of that year, 2017. And then I would say, like, from a borrowing standpoint, where it is in its like current iteration, as far as like what you see from a borrower experience, all the cool things that we built and over time was August 2nd to 2018. So we've had a couple different iterations, and we've really, kind of taken a lot of feedback and really progressed the platform based on, market downturns and lots of user feedback over the years. So
yeah, very fantastic. Cool to, yeah, it's really cool to see how your platform has grown over time. You guys are the original lending platform. And I think I got some stickers from you guys back in BTC Miami in 2018.
Very likely.
Probably.
Very likely.
Yeah. So Rob, if you could just give everyone in the room an elevator pitch about what Salt is, what value it provides, please give us your elevator pitch.
Absolutely. So we are basically a platform that allows you to unlock value from your crypto. So Bitcoin and other assets that we support on platform, so that you don't have to sell them. And you can also, be rest assured that they're safe. We're monitoring the loan to value. We're sending you notifications. We've built all the things that people get nervous about when they're taking out a loan, especially on DeFi platforms, where if the market crashes and your position is, your crypto is liquidated, we're doing a lot to protect that. In addition to our, customer service is really one of the things that sets us apart from everyone else. You can pick up the phone, you can talk to anybody about the process, and we try to make it as simple as possible for the user and frictionless as possible to be able to just, if you want US dollars, if you want to if you want to expand on your house, if you want to grow your business, if you want to reinvest, there's a lot of different types of opportunities, and we're not picky. We don't ask too many questions about what you're doing with the proceeds.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. Not liquidating unless you've done proper things beforehand. And I also want to get into your KYC stuff, but just some more clarification questions. Who can you lend to? Do you lend to individuals or businesses or both?
Both, absolutely. And we've had individuals take out loans for things like baby adoptions, going through that process. They have crypto, they understand, the value of not having an idle asset or having something just locked in cold storage and not being able to do anything with it. Or having to choose between selling it or holding on to it. And so we really want to like be in the middle of that, and you can have both. You can hold on to it and you can still unlock some value. And then from a business side, we built a lot of things where you can make monthly payments in crypto. You can, so if you're a mining operation and you want to double your size of your operation, you need an influx of capital to buy mining equipment, to buy warehouse space, to buy electricity contracts, whatever it is that you need to expand the business, but then you're going to be getting rewards back in Bitcoin, or whatever else it is that you're mining. We make it as easy as possible to make monthly payments in that same currency, so that you don't really have to worry about conversions, and you get crushed by all those fees through that process too. So we really work to really introduce that as well.
Yeah, options are good, and I think you guys have been building your product over time to really provide more and more options. But how about like physical locations? What states and countries are you guys available in?
Oh my gosh, this is going to be a test.
Okay, I guess.
So
yeah, go ahead.
We have a link. We have a link on our website that shows
Okay.
Exactly where we are. And as you know, like working in the crypto space, we're subject to licenses just like everyone else, including the New York BIT license. So we, in addition to that, we also have lending licenses. So in the lending space, we actually have to maintain, a physical office presence in some places. So, for example, I don't think we lend in Arkansas because we don't intend to open an actual physical office, which is a requirement to have a lending license there. So we lend in, I believe, 44 states to businesses and individuals, and then some states more for businesses. Businesses have a little looser regulation for how we interact with them. And then we're in 9 countries, or that we know of, that we're able to lend in right now. And I would say that's one thing that we've really expanded is based on where demand is. We've looked at different options of lending in different countries, and right now we're pursuing expanding that because we've gotten an influx of demand from some Latin American countries that we'd really like to offer services to. So it's just a matter of getting that inbound demand, and then going out and doing a little bit of legal research to understand the licenses and local jurisdictions, so that we're maintaining compliance and hopefully not pissing off any foreign governments.
Yeah, you don't want to make foreign governments mad, for sure.
No.
So you said something earlier about you guys kind of not running KYC, not KYC, but you're not running credit checks.
Correct.
Why don't you guys run credit checks for your assault people?
Well, it's one of those things where we don't want people to be caught in the same type of trap that's really pervasive through the current financial system.
Yeah, I love that. Sorry, real quick, Rob. That's one of my favorite parts about platforms, and specifically crypto in general. And I'm just so happy that you guys are staying true to that, where you're not running credit checks on people.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the truth is, if you own an asset already, and we take that asset as some kind of collateral, and we assign it a value, then what else really is there needed to be done? And so it's mostly just basic information that lets us know where you live, just so that we can make sure we can lend to you. And we try to, like I said, we try to ask the questions that will make regulators happy, but also make borrowers happy, and with the level of information that we're collecting. So credit checks is something that I've seen really present problems to people. So if you have it, basically, if you have Bitcoin, you have credit, with us.
Exactly.
So that's
over collateralized loan.
It.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty about Bitcoin too, is that although it's all online, you actually are the ones that are custodying assets. And I will talk a little bit about how you guys used to custody it yourself because you didn't trust other people. And I think that's really honorable as well, because it's like, hey, like, not your keys, not your coins. We trust nobody but ourselves. But now you're seeing a lot more players come up in the custody market who have significant insurance, and they can, they've done well for a while. So now you're focusing on other ways to provide value into the market. But so specifically for somebody that, knows about SALT, knows about Bitcoin, you guys have a referral program. How does that work? How can people in this room right now make money using SALT, using a referral program?
So really, there's two main ways. One is if you sign up for a SALT account, you actually get a referral link in your account that gives you basically, whenever anybody that you refer takes out a loan, we give both the person that you got the loan and you $50 in Bitcoin. So obviously, depending on when you get that reward, the $50 in Bitcoin could be worth more, it could be worth less. Hopefully always more. And then we also actually have an affiliate program. So that's a little more high touch, and there's a little bit of an application process, and I can send you an email address for that. And that's really if you have, large loans, if you have, a lot of friends that you're going to be referring, it might make sense to be a part of that program, because there, for the referral program, there's limits of, I want to say it's 10 or 12 referrals. And when you hit that number, we reach out to you essentially to ask if you want to be part of the affiliate program anyway, because you've clearly got a lot of friends in the space. So we've used that a couple of times in the past, and it's worked out pretty well.
Very cool. Incentivize people to make money while people are using their hard money to make money while still keeping their money.
And
my favorite thing My favorite thing about lending platforms like you guys is that when you put your Bitcoin as collateral, the prediction of almost anybody who's in the space is that the price of Bitcoin is going to appreciate heavily, that we're going to be 100K plus. Now, if you take out a loan that is a fraction of that, and let's say you use a couple Bitcoin, eventually just a portion of your collateral, if it moves the way that we think things are moving, is going to be able to pay off your loan. And not only that, but when we see how much money is being printed and we see the Fed's balance sheet, it's like the dollars that we're betting against are depreciating. So it's just really, it's a win-win situation. And you don't actually have to sell your Bitcoin, which is the best part. Now, do you guys insure crypto funds held on your platform?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the things that we went through early on to, just to be a differentiator of our platform, because we were, out of all the lenders that were doing things, we were the only one that, like you said earlier, doing custody ourselves. And so since we were holding those assets ourselves, we wanted to make sure we had, enough insurance to be able to cover those costs. And it was certainly not easy and certainly not cheap. And this is more a shout out to our finance team, our current CFO and previous people that have worked on that team, and our custody team to really, they came in and did a full review of our business, and then we're able to broker out different insurances through, I think, 3 or 4 different actual companies, so that we could distribute the policy across them. But it took a lot of effort to get to that point, to get everybody comfortable with that process. But yeah, we currently still have that policy, but as we're shifting away, we're evaluating if that still makes sense, mostly because of the costs and all that associated with it.
Yeah, and insurance platforms are a whole nother beast in this world, but definitely important that is one of the focal points that you guys had before. So just a couple more clerical questions, just for people that might be interested in getting a loan with you guys. What information do they need in order to apply for a loan with Salt?
So really, we try to make it as easy as possible to apply, and really just like play with the calculator to see like what you can get as far as loans go. So it's, that part of it is pretty straightforward. It's just your email, I think first and last name, and your jurisdiction, so like where you live, what country and state, or country and province. And outside of that, you don't really need much else to get started. And then once you actually apply for a loan, or once you actually submit an application, there's a couple more things that we ask for in terms of just completing a profile. If you're a business, completing a business profile. And again, those are questions that are just things like, what's your address? Can you verify your address? Basic stuff like that. And then although it's optional, we highly encourage you to set up like 2-factor authentication, like we were talking about earlier. Like security is pretty important for us. So even though 2-factor is not super fun to do, it's one of those things where we make it a little more difficult for people to steal your funds. And so, once you have all that stuff set up, you're pretty much good to go. And then you just have to deposit the requisite amount of collateral. And I think the other thing to clarify at this point too is, you can use any collateral that we support as collateral for a loan. So it doesn't have to be just Bitcoin or just Litecoin or just Ethereum. It could be a combination of all the above. In fact, we support Doge. So if you have Doge and you would like a loan against Doge, I know that there's a sense of popularity happening in that world right now, but we've had it on our platform actually since 2018, and it's kind of seen a little bit of a resurgence. So
yeah. So what other currencies do you allow yourself to be backed by? Like Pax Gold, like what else?
Pax Gold is one, and we're always open to new collateral types. So if you have one that you'd like to see us add, definitely reach out to us on Twitter, or even in the marketing at saltlending.com. We're happy to field those requests. So right now it's let's see if I get this right: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, USDC, True USD, Pax Gold, Dash, Doge, Bitcoin Cash, and XRP.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of different options for people that want to use their crypto while still staying true to the mindset of holding it.
Yep.
Now, how long does it take for someone to apply for a loan? So someone who applies for a loan, how long does it take to get them approved?
So it's really a function of how quick you can put the information in. Right now we can fund loans in as little as 24 hours. And if you would like your loan payout to be in cash, then we're obviously subject to what it takes to transfer at a bank. And depending on the bank, how long they may hold it. But If you want your payout in stablecoin, so USDC or True USD, and I'm blanking on the other one. There's a third stablecoin that we support, but yeah, if you want your payout in stablecoin, we can do that faster. And actually, just recently, we have a partnership with Uphold. So if you're also an Uphold customer or you're not, and you'd like to have your loan paid out to a debit card, they actually have a debit card option. So for people that want to have the ability to spend dollars instead of their crypto, you could actually use a loan with us and then have the loan paid out to Uphold and get a debit card from them to be able to just spend straight from that debit card. So.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting, making it a lot easier for people to spend their crypto without spending their crypto. Now, one more clerical question before we get into the juicy stuff. What is the minimum? That's the question. What is the minimum loan that you guys will give out?
So right now, the minimum is $5,000. And the reason is because of a lot of the regulation around lending in states in the United States. So for that, we're actually actively right now looking at lowering that minimum for outside the United States, and then what that might look like inside the United States, based on where we lend, what states we lend in, and what those jurisdictions look like. So right now it's 5,000.
Well, I mean, I still think that's a really low barrier to entry. And, we could probably rip on the financial system and how it excludes a lot of people, but this is why DeFi is such a great innovation in the cryptocurrency space, because it's just allowing more participants to be able to actually make money. Now, to get into the juicy side of things, BlockFi has kind of been in the news recently. BlockFi is a direct competitor of yours. And I personally have some issues with BlockFi because I know many people, when the stock market crashed earlier this year because of the whole coronavirus scare, as well as the normal stock market, Bitcoin went to, I think, 3,800 for like 30 minutes. Like it was like maybe a 15-minute candle where it was below 4,000. And with BlockFi, a lot of people got their accounts just liquidated with no warning, nothing. How did Salt handle this dip below 4K for a little bit when it came to your guys' customers?
I mean, it definitely did not affect us. We certainly, all hands on deck type of thing at Salt. And one of the things that we've done over the years is having been around long enough, we've seen these dips before, and it for some reason it seems to be around Thanksgiving, or it seems to be around weekends whenever no one's around. And luckily this time it was a Thursday, which I'll never forget. And we had enough people on staff, and we had our loan ops team all in the same office with support and product and engineering, and just fire drill all the issues. And so anybody who wanted to talk to somebody that was messaging support, we gave them a phone number to call right away so they could talk to someone on loan ops. And we ended up being able to do remediations essentially for a lot of loans where the person was like, we didn't have enough time to deposit, and so we retroactively went back and looked at their account, saw when they would have made the deposit. And a lot of times, another thing that was happening at that time was the network fees for Bitcoin and Ethereum were going through the roof because of all the transactions and all the other stuff happening. So a lot of transactions had been already initiated and people would have saved their loans, but because networks were congested, we weren't able to recognize those deposits fast enough. So we were able to go back, look at the blockchain and see when they made the deposit or when they made the initial mempool transaction, and then we were able to reinstate their loan. And I think for being able to work with borrowers like that one-on-one is one of the things that really sets us apart from DeFi and other lending platforms. Not to throw them under the bus, they have their way of dealing with customers, but for us, it's really we exist for the benefit of customers. And so if we can't serve you and we can't remediate, then kind of what's the point? So we really took that approach to heart when it came to March 12th, and we're able to work with each borrower that was willing to work with us.
Very cool, Rob. You don't have to rip on any other lending platforms because I will do it for you, because that really makes me upset. And you're right. Customer service is super important. In the world of decentralized finance, you don't always have someone who will answer your phone call. You don't always have someone who will answer your email, or even anywhere to write your email to. Even in centralized platforms, there's like nowhere you can send questions to if you have problems. I mean, like right now, kind of off topic, but my Instagram is deleted and there's no way that I can get it back because there's no help desk, even though Instagram has probably been making money off me putting content on their platform, right? So I really love that you guys have like a phone that can be answered and you're like, hey, use this email and contact us. another thing too, which is when it comes to the world of security, not to rip on BlockFi, but BlockFi definitely liquidated without calling a lot of people when during the, I don't know, maybe 1 day span of Bitcoin tanking. Now, with you guys, you definitely mitigated your risk, but another reason why they're in a lot of trouble is because of them mishandling private keys. How do you guys ensure people that that is not going to happen on the Salt platform?
We have a process currently that's fully I guess introducing people to a couple of new terms here, but there's a cryptocurrency security consortium. I'm not sure I got that right. It's called C4, and it's made up of people like Andreas Antonopoulos. Actually, Dirk, our CTO, is on the board for one of the exams. They administer the Certified Bitcoin Professional exam, but they also have another side of their business that does cryptocurrency security standard audits, so CSS, and they will come in and audit how you generate private keys, what you do with them, how your platform works, and they have a whole list on their website about how that works. And so they came in and audited our process. So the way that we handle funds currently, the way that we handle private keys and all of that is all been audited by them, and we got the stamp of approval for I think it's level 1, and then in some cases level 2 and level 3, depending on how we generate addresses. So they really dig into like all the mechanics of what you're talking about, where we're doing everything we can to distribute risk, in addition to distribute the risk of us as human beings being involved in the process and how flawed we can be at times. So really, that's been a big part of our business up to now is really making sure that all that stuff's in place to make customers feel comfortable depositing funds with us, because we've all lived through like the Quadrigas and all these other ones that are not we're not even talking about like the minor ones at this point yet, but
exactly. And that's all, that's really all you can do in this space. It's like sometimes people are like, well, you can lose your private keys, and I'm like, well, that's kind of a feature, not a bug. It means you're the only one that can lose your private keys and nobody else can lose them. But in the case of in the crypto space, things are fairly new, and so education is also really important. And what I appreciate about Salt as well is that you guys do put out really educational topics constantly. I think the last one you guys put out was just how to not get attacked by phishing scams and how to not get like SIM swaps, right? So tell us a little bit about the different things that you educate your customers.
Yeah, I thought I was joining a crypto company to build products and build good user experiences and fancy designs, but a lot of the job has really evolved into financial education, and just like some of these terms that are I have a background in building lending technology in the mortgage space, so things like loan to value are like common terms that people use, but you don't use it really outside of that. Or asset-backed lending industry has like collateralized loans, and so really a lot of our education has come down to what are the questions that we're getting a lot from customers, or what do they not understand, and us trying to find 2 ways to solve that, whether we solve it through building a good user experience that hides that complicated part if it needs to, or just trying to provide as much education around what financial terms mean, and we're still leaning into that. We have quite a few blog posts lined up for the next couple of months around just common educational terms that I think people often say or overlook, or go, yeah, I know what the Fed is. It's like, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
I understand all that. But if you had like a little guide or a little quick summary of what that is, a quick way to reference it, I think it's helpful. In addition to just understanding the mechanics of investing and finance and that sort of thing. It's a little bit like subsection of Investopedia, I guess, is what it's become.
Yeah, no, that's good, because a lot of times I find that when people don't know something, they don't know the definition of a term or how it's being used, like they really won't ask. They won't be like, I don't know what that is, because it's a little bit embarrassing, when really I feel like people are smarter when they're like, sorry, I don't know what that means. But you guys definitely, you educate customers on determining their risk profiles, traditional versus crypto lending, over collateralization. Financial literacy is a big one, because they absolutely did not teach us that while we were in government-run schools. And building and preserving wealth, economics, super important, and just borrowing against something that you already own. So education is definitely something that SALT provides.
You certainly have to wonder if that's intentional. Like, why would you ignore these things that seem really important. Like everybody someday, if we have the system created to, it's a little bit of a tangent too, but if you have a system created to like, for all of us to aspire to buy a house one day, like, wouldn't you want to understand like the economics of that and like what loan to values mean, why you wouldn't want like 3%, and maybe go for a 10%, down payment, that kind of stuff. Like just, you don't learn any of that. You have to wait till college. And it just seems like if you really want people to buy houses and be part of that system, like you need to probably provide some education around that. But
yeah, or it's like, kids are 18 years old and they get all these like credit cards in the mail, but they have no idea what credit is. And then they just start spending and then they become in debt for nothing. It's really sad. And Rob, let's get on the tangent a little bit, because why not? Do you think that it's intentional, or do you think that it's just incompetence?
I think it's when I think in a lot of cases, it is you're trying to, a system is designed to fit the lowest common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of cases, having family members that that have been teachers, that are teachers currently, I think you struggle to find a balance between like, the kids that are way up here and the kids that are way down here, and you oftentimes end up supporting the kids that are way down here. My dad forced me. My dad made it very much required to go to school during the summer when I was growing up. So I didn't really have a choice in that matter, but I learned a lot of extra stuff that I get to use now then. And I think that the system should be designed to have like a better way to mitigate some of that like disparity between, like, just because I'm the same age as someone else doesn't mean I'm on the same learning curve or the same absorption rate, or I'm even interested in the same thing. So I think, the earlier on that you could be put into a particular category potentially for like, oh, I'm really interested in math or science, and kind of pick that route, or I'm interested in finance. It's like, why not teach more of that stuff earlier on? And I think that it's part of just the system that's very old, that it doesn't seem like anybody's interested in updating it, right? Like, so I think in some ways it is intentional by just purely ignoring the fact that, it's not really, it's failing us like significantly in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. There's a major problem because there is no incentive for schools to run efficiently. There really is no incentive at all for governments to run efficiently, because all they do is print more money or take more money in taxes. That's literally all they do. So they can't go out of business, so they have no incentive to do things properly.
Yep.
Now, you made a really good point, Rob, when you said like sometimes, like, I think, let's say that I didn't have such a vengeance against government schools. I think one of the easiest fixes that you could do is just not group people by age.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense. Group them by ability, not by age. That way you don't have to cater to the lowest common denominator. And then one more thing, like, I know China is a huge problem, but you also made a good point to where you said that, maybe we can go in tracks earlier on. And if you like math, you go down that track. What's interesting is the way that the system works in China is not where you have multiple careers and you get good at one thing, another thing is that you have one craft, and then in that craft, you continually perfect it until you're better at it. I'm not saying that's a better way to live. And China has a lot of problems, specifically #free Hong Kong. I hope that this stream doesn't get blacklisted because I said that. But regardless, it's always good to have choice in schools. And definitely, I'm glad that SALT is making up for the financial illiteracy that we have as people who grow up in the United States. So just some evolution of the crypto market to get off my soapbox about government schools. 80% of your loan book is currently secured by Bitcoin. Is this going to evolve, and how?
I mean, I'm curious to see how it does evolve. It wasn't that wasn't always the case. When we first launched the first version back in 2017, it was nearly 50-50 between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and a lot of that was because those were the only two options that we had for loans at the time. But we've evolved to add assets that people have proven that there's demand to borrow against. And while we very much support Bitcoin, and a lot of what we've done is built around what Bitcoin is able to do as a blockchain, as a technology, we know that there are other assets in the world that are going to be, people are going to want to borrow against. And so we haven't taken a strong stance from a company standpoint. We want to be the provider of liquidity. So if you have like a rare baseball set of cards that is tokenized in a way that we can accept it in a liquid way, and you can get a loan against it. We want to be able to facilitate that. And whether it's on the Ethereum blockchain or the Bitcoin blockchain, that's not really for us to determine. And so we're really, in that way, we're really trying to like swim within the stream of what people are wanting and what they're demanding, as opposed to, trying to push a product on people that they don't want. And I think one of the things that we've seen, one of the reasons why Bitcoin has become so popular on our platform is because, number one, it's not really like it doesn't exist in the same way as Ethereum or other ERC20s. So you can't really just infuse it into a DeFi platform and be able to get a loan with it that way. And there are options like wrapped Bitcoin, but I just, and you see that becoming more popular. I personally have a lot of issues with that, but we can put those aside for now. But I think that as assets like, other tokenized assets on the Ethereum blockchain, or even XRP, or any of the other, networks that are allowing people to put assets onto them as a securitization, essentially, then, we want to be able to support that. And so I do see that evolving significantly over time. But also, like you said, like you alluded to earlier, if Bitcoin does the thing we think it's going to do, then we probably stay at the 80% number just by the sheer fact that it continues to again, do the thing we think it's going to do. So I don't know. I would say that I hope that there are other assets that people have that they can bring to us, and let's get creative. Like we're not saying no to anybody until we really dig into it and understand what they're looking for. But I think Bitcoin is king for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're about 7 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to go to Q&A. I think you're definitely going to get some questions about the wrapped Bitcoin, like ERC20 is tied 1-to-1 to Bitcoin. You're probably going to get some questions about that one. Yep. So let's see. So tokenization, okay. Real world assets are being tokenized. It only makes sense, especially when, for me right now, a lot of the times, the people that I teach about Bitcoin and about cryptocurrencies, they're pretty much boomers who are like, oh, like I own enough gold. How can I diversify into this thing called Bitcoin? And a lot of them are having issues right now because they cannot get lending because it's very risky for banks to lend. So something like you guys is perfect fit because you guys are actually doing lending. And what about, sorry, that was a little tangent, but real world assets. What do we expect to see, and what is SALT's role in doing like security token offerings or tokenizing some physical real estate? Or what brought me into this space was we were going to tokenize the aircraft fleet that we owned. So how do you see SALT's role in that?
I think, one of the things that we have talked about extensively in the past is, for us in a market like that, it's really about having, well, guaranteed is probably a strong word, but guaranteed buyers on the other side, right? So for Bitcoin, it's easy for us to accept that as an asset because we know that there's a place where we can go and sell it if we ever need to. And the same is true for other assets. What I think is really cool about, I guess, not just cool, but what is really important about something like an aircraft fleet is that the value of that aircraft fleet is probably not going to fluctuate with the same volatility as Bitcoin or Ethereum or other assets. So borrowing against those becomes a little more safe, or at least at the very least, a little less volatile than Bitcoin. So I think for other assets, things like house values, I'd love to see a world where every month I make a mortgage payment and some of that equity, some of the principal that I'm paying every month, I actually get tokens back as like almost like a repayment. Like I'm filling up this bucket of like owning my house, and then at any point I could just take those tokens and get a home equity line of credit on like a DeFi lender or with SALT or another lender that offers liquidity against my particular mortgage or this particular blockchain. And what's really interesting about that is it's already happening, right? Like our legal counsel it came from the securitization space. He's like, that's just securitization. Like it's already happening all over the place. It's just a matter of making it a lot more efficient, a lot less paper involved, a lot less, lawyers involved, and really streamlining that process. And kind of, really what it comes down to is like, as a community, as a global community, like we have to agree on some like certain rules about securitization and about tokenization that makes sense for everybody, or at least makes sense at the highest level, and then we can all add our little pieces on underneath that don't make it hopefully too cumbersome to be able to tokenize assets. So honestly, even things like gold make a lot of sense if you can have a trusted enough entity to store that and then issue tokens on a blockchain. Like you said, it's really hard to it's really hard to leverage your gold. I can't just mail it. I can't just, take it into a bank in a wheelbarrow and hopefully get a loan against it. So it does become cumbersome to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And definitely, I think that one of my favorite parts about this whole DeFi movement is exactly what you said when you're like, hey, you have a house. Instead, let's say that something happens, like a coronavirus happens and you can't pay your rent. Instead of you losing your home, you just end up owing the bank more money and they just take it out of the equity that you already own and you're not out of a house immediately.
Yeah.
So there's so many opportunities that this provides. So I'm really glad that you guys are here and you're pushing forward in it. Now, what is this remote first, mobile first companies, meeting customers and employees where they are?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a recent change for us, specifically around the remote first aspect.
Okay.
We are based in Denver, Colorado. We have employees now we had employees in all based in Denver and all based in Colorado for the most part. But then as coronavirus hit, and we hired a CEO who's remote now as well. We're kind of like in this process of figuring out like what the company looks like, and we had this like self-reflective moment where it's like we're building a company on top of these blockchains that exist, that are meant to be decentralized, that are meant to be governed in an autonomous way. And that became one of the goals that we sort of forgot about along the way almost. And we reabsorbed it into the company culture and have, obviously there's going to be a transition, not being in front of a whiteboard has its disadvantages, but, we've made the decision to go remote first. And so I think we have employees now in 4 or 5 states, and are really just looking forward to seeing where people live. I would love for it to be the case one day where we're doing our all hands on Thursday and every employee's like in a backyard or in another state or in another country, because we can kind of work in that way. So just like how a lot of these technologies are meant to work, we don't want to constrain people to having to do things like commute if they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really made a lot of sense for us. And I think we're 42 employees now. So we can really, hopefully if we can make it work at 42 employees, it will scale to, as many employees as we can add. So, and also, to be fair, taking a page out of some of the bigger companies' books that are doing the same thing and looking at the same options is like, if they can do it, we can certainly do it. So
yeah, especially now in this global world. So if you guys are living in states that have high taxes, you can move to Miami, Florida, which has no state income tax. We have beautiful weather, beaches, and it's great here. So just saying, you can still work for Salt.
Love it.
So building and preserving wealth. How is Salt already achieving this, and how will you guys continue to do so?
So that's one of the things that our new CEO has really kind of brought to the forefront of just the idea of what our platform exists to do. And really, if you think about what we're trying to do, is we're trying to create an atmosphere that lets people, hold something that they believe is valuable, and we obviously believe that as well,
Mm-hmm.
and do something with that. So it's like you don't want an idle asset that's just sitting there. You want the ability to go, like I was talking about earlier, expand your mining business. So what does that look like? How can you take advantage of what we offer to go expand that? In addition, and that's really kind of the base of what we're doing right now. And then what we're doing in the future within the next 90 to 120 days is we're looking at rolling out some really cool new features and product offerings that will we'll call it supercharge. I don't want to spoil too much because we need to get through a couple of regulatory hurdles, but
Mm-hmm.
we're really looking at what it will mean to kind of get a little bit more creative with borrowers and what we're doing as far as offering protections in certain cases and additional types of insurance. So not just insurance on cold storage, but other options for how you can really protect your loan and protect your assets along the way, because we know that, we all know that the market's volatile. It could happen at any moment. Maybe there's an oracle out there that knows what's going to happen in the market, but no one really knows. So we're trying to build in a lot of new features to our platform that allow you as the user to take control of your loan, and really up to you to decide how you want to proceed going in volatile times. And so building a lot of wealth preservation products and things that prevent users from losing their crypto is really what we're trying to build as well.
Yeah, definitely important. One thing you said, nobody really knows. And number 2, in times like these, wealth preservation is probably more important than anything. Now, what about you guys have features towards miners and traders. What can Salt offer miners and traders that other places can't?
So the mining operation is something that has always been on our radar as far as how we can get creative with offering loans to miners. And I would say definitely have a conversation with our loan operations team about that before. I don't want to misspeak about what they're offering and what they're looking at, but when working with businesses, we have a lot more flexibility in how we approach that and what we offer as a product. And really working with mining operations, like I said earlier, you can make payments every month. You can do something like an interest-only loan, so your payments are minimal, and you can make all those payments in crypto. So it's not really a hassle, just as long as the crypto's in your account and you deposit it into your Salt account, you can make monthly payments that way. And so your rewards are effectively, you don't lose all those fees. And then as far as traders goes, we have no prepayment penalties. We have no refinance penalties. So if you take out a loan in Bitcoins at 5,000 and Bitcoin goes up to 10,000 and you'd like to unlock a little more value, that's a pretty seamless process for you to be able to unlock more. And so from a trading perspective, we want to be as fluid as possible with what we offer, and allowing you to open and close loans with us becomes really easy, especially after the first one. Once you do the first loan, it's really easy to do that. And I would say, some things that make it really cool, our product much different than other ones is we allow multiple users for an account. So you could actually have like a business that's owned by, let's say 4 or 5 people, and you all want to have equal control of that account. So you could set it up so that you can invite everyone to the account, and then there's not any unilateral movement of collateral without the consent of everybody or a certain number of people. And then as far as actual accounts, you could open up, up to 7 accounts right now, which we could always expand that. So if you're interested in like borrowing it's just Bitcoin, and then you want to have a loan against just Ethereum, you could have up to 7 accounts with us as well. So kind of giving you the ultimate flexibility and options and choosing how you want to take out a loan.
Dang, you guys definitely provide a lot of products. If my not financial advice suggestion, please do your own research, would be take out a loan with Bitcoin so you can buy more Bitcoin, and then wait for the price of Bitcoin to appreciate to pay off that loan with a fraction of the collateral that you initially used. It's possible. But anyways, thank you, Rob, so much. It is time for some Q&A. Do you have any closing thoughts while we wait for questions to come in? I already have one waiting.
I would just say that we are, we're always adding to what we're doing, and there's a couple of different ways you can keep up with that, but there's none better than just like on our website, there's a what's new, and you can just kind of read through the feed of all the stuff that we've launched, all the, any kind of education, but even like product updates, feature updates, everything goes there. And really just sign up for an account, play with it. There's no obligations, there's no requirements. Just see how it is, see what the experience is like, and judge for yourself. We really want to stand alone and build an experience that we think is the best for everybody. So
definitely, yeah, no obligations, guys. You hear that? Because they hold your Bitcoin, so you're going to be really nice to them. Now, one question that we got in the VR room says, what are some benefits of using Salt over traditional lending?
I would say, the number one benefit would be that, we recognize the value of Bitcoin and understand, how it works fundamentally, and how, the things that users care about when getting a loan against it. So, just even down to the small stuff where when you make a deposit with us, we actually recognize the transaction right away in the mempool. And then once we get the first confirmation, we show you like 1 of 2, 1 of 3. We make sure that, we follow the confirmations through the blockchain itself, down to those kinds of specifics. But ultimately what makes us different is really the fact that we are able to recognize Bitcoin and other crypto assets as valuable and provide you with the liquidity. And then I think the second thing that makes us the most different is something that you asked earlier, which is, or we were talking about earlier, which is no credit checks. If you're going to a traditional financial institution, no matter what the process is, I don't know if you've gotten a loan from a traditional financial institution, but they ask a lot of questions and they want to know a lot of stuff, including your credit score. And it can get pretty deep. They don't really, it used to be, they just check the last 6 months, the last 12 months, and now it's like, how long have you had this behavior? And then I've heard horror stories of them experimenting with like social scraping and like trying to build like a social credit score based on that. And so if you have a lot of pictures of you partying, like you may not have credit. maybe a ding against you. So that stuff terrifies
Super
me.
terrifying. And like we were talking about earlier, they don't teach you financial literacy in school, and then they attach this weird number to you where every single time you want to check it, you get dinged. It's so strange, and I really, really hate the whole credit score system. So it's a problem in itself. So we have a question coming in from YouTube. It says, in Venezuela, there is a lot of crypto for a beneficial loan system. Are you thinking of going there? How about Argentina? How about Colombia? Please come here.
So yeah, I mean, nothing is off the table. I would say, Venezuela, there are companies that we've partnered with that operate there, and so we would just reach out to them to see how they've navigated the regulatory landscape there, and what, if there is one. I'm assuming that there is, especially Venezuela, but I would say Argentina and Colombia are high on our list for lending. Yeah, so if there's demand, we absolutely are interested in that. So reach out to us directly, loan support otherwise, and we'll be happy to have that conversation. I mean, it may be something that is a matter of just having a conversation with a local legal counsel to make sure that we're doing all the right things and offering, the right product there. And it may be as simple as, a couple of weeks, if not sooner.
Very cool. I mean, that question is pretty good, because like for us, the reason why we're strategically placed in Miami is because when you see real use cases, when you see actual adoption of this technology and not just a way to like make money, it's absolutely in Latin America because they need it, right? So another question from YouTube says, if you need to replenish your collateral due to volatility, can you replenish with a token that is different than the one you originally
that's
deposited?
a really great question. So that is one of the things we spent a time early on trying to figure out, like, what makes sense. And we thought we'd have restrictions around it, but that's not the case. You can actually deposit anything that we accept as collateral, especially when you need to top up your collateral. And one of the things that we've seen a lot of borrowers do when they think, for example, let's say like right before Thanksgiving or right before Christmas, right before a trip or a holiday, what borrowers will do is actually deposit stablecoin. So what that does is help lower your LTV, but it also helps stabilize it. So you're not as subjected to, like if Bitcoin is crashing or going up and down, floating between a certain number, you can deposit stablecoin to kind of offset some of that volatility a little bit. So we pretty much tried to offer as many options as possible. And so, a lot of times we'll see when the market starts going down a little bit, I'll know before I actually check the price anywhere, because we have a feed that lets us know when there's any kind of deposit being made, and just so we can monitor it, make sure there's no issues or anything with deposits. And you can kind of see that start to uptick over time as the market is going down, so we can tell when that's happening. But any asset that we support on platform is acceptable form of collateral. So if you start with Bitcoin and you have Ethereum and Bitcoin's going down, and you want to put Ethereum in, or Litecoin or Dash or Doge, any of those assets are acceptable for sure.
Very cool. You guys provide a lot of options. That's a super good idea. Before holiday, before you go on break, just add some stable coin in to make sure your account doesn't get liquidated. Now, another question is, what is this? How many people work for you, and how does your phone and online support come through for customers?
So how many people work? Right now I think we're 42 employees, if I have that right. So we have most of the employees are in the United States, but we do have a couple of international folks that work on the team as well. And a lot of that just making sure we have support, and we also have some businesses that make sense in those areas of the world as well. So we have full coverage for support as well. As far as support goes, we have 24/7 support on chat and email, and then we have business hours in Mountain Standard Time. I believe that's 9 to 6 or 8 to 6. You're able to call and talk to anyone on the phone. So we have I can get the phone number for afterwards as well, but there's a phone number that you can call and talk to anyone on the loan team, as well as, if you submit a loan request or submit an application and you'd like to talk to someone, they'll usually within 24 hours, they're reaching out to you anyway. So you can always ask to talk to them on the phone. And they love it. We have Trevor and Dan would love to talk to anybody who wants to talk about the product. So
very cool. 24/7 online support, and then 8 to 6 via Mountain Time. You get a hot body. That's great. Not saying that Dan and the other guy are hot, but like, you get a physical body or whatever. Sorry.
They can be both.
Yeah. They can be both. Hey, Dan, what's up? I think I might know you. So the other question is, what is your standard loan terms?
So there really isn't. I mean, there's parameters, but there's not a standard. So you can customize it yourself, and that's probably a little bit to our disadvantage at first. Like we didn't really offer like here's your 1 product and your 2 product and your 3 product. We actually have a calculator that lets you play and choose the terms that you want. So if you want like an interest only loan, or you want a principal and interest loan or traditional type loan, if you want a loan that's anywhere from 3 to 12 months, if you want a loan that's longer than 12 months, we're willing to talk about that. If you want something shorter than 3, we're willing to talk about that. And then really the things that you can customize are the loan to value. So that's probably the biggest one that I would say when you're thinking about taking out a loan is look at your personal risk profile and what you think, crypto is going to do and where you're comfortable taking out a loan, because the loan to value that you choose will affect your interest rate, but it also affects your, your risk profile essentially of the loan. So if you're taking out, let's say you have $100,000 in crypto and you're taking out $70,000 in cash, that's a 70 LTV. That could be a little more risky, because if the price of crypto gets closer to 70, that's where you get into trouble potentially. And so if you start at 50 or 30, you get a better interest rate, you get a little more cushion, a little more comfort. And then it's always possible to refinance. So, and that process, like I said, is pretty quick. So when you're, if you start at 30 and that's where you feel comfortable and you've been doing it for a month or 2 and you feel like that's good, we actually see a lot of borrowers take out loans, either small amounts or low LTVs, just to start the process and see how it goes for a month or 2. I think a lot of it is just seeing if they trust us or not. And then they end up refinancing usually a month later, sometimes within the same week. They're like, oh, that was great. That was smooth. We'll just refinance right now. So I think, yeah,
definitely very customizable. Now I have one more question, and I think it's from a troll, but it says, Zap pumped 200% today. When is Zap support added?
That's a great question. We have a process that we could put it through, and I will absolutely take a look at it. Like I said, no options are off the table. And if that's something that people want to borrow against, it all comes down to demand. If you submit a loan request and you actually want to borrow against that, we will absolutely take a very hard look at it and approve it as fast as possible. So
very cool. Thank you so much, Rob. Any more questions, Anna, from the crowd?
Tell you what, I'm making a note right now for that person. I'll look into it.
Super funny. Zap is an interesting Oracle protocol, so maybe those will be the ones that will be able to tell the future. So
that would be great.
Thank you. Right. Any closing thoughts from you, Rob, before I close us out and give a big thank you to everyone who has joined us on VR, on YouTube, on Periscope.
Like I said earlier, I think we're in the early stages of all this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. I don't ever think, you always get to have little bits and pieces of conversations, but it's really great to just kind of be able to talk about all this. And we're continuing to push push the limits of what we think is possible for people borrowing against crypto, and really making it safer and safer over time by releasing features that, again, preserve wealth and allow you to kind of manage your own risk profile. On top of that, our mobile app is live and out there, and we're in the process right now of updating that to make it just like the web experience. And so there's no like limited feature set or any of that stuff. It's really one-to-one. So you can, hopefully you're going on vacation places without Wi-Fi, but if you have Wi-Fi on vacation, you can always check your loan and check everything there as well. So
definitely
sign up, check it out, and we're always open to feedback. So whether that's Twitter publicly or you want to email me personally, please do that. I'm open to it.
Yeah, even just having platforms like Salt in the space to where I can point to them when traditional finance people come up to me and they're like, what is Bitcoin? I'm like, well, actually, there's a lot of pretty complex products that are offered on Bitcoin. So really happy that you guys are doing what you're doing for just to help people in the crypto space preserve their wealth, but then also for us to say, guess what, as a industry, we are evolving, we have evolved, and there's more cool things that we're going to be able to offer. I mean, I cannot tell you how many elderly people are not, okay, boomers, we'll just call them what they are. How many of those people are like very surprised when I tell them how far Bitcoin has come. And so thank you to Salt for providing that. And everyone who is watching in VR, if you're watching online, if you're on YouTube, if you're watching on Periscope, please like this video, send some hearts, do whatever it takes, because we want to make sure that people know that there are options to preserve your wealth in times like this. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and please follow us, subscribe to our mailing list at blockchaincenter.com. Lending? What is it, Rob?
Saltlending.com.
Saltlending.com, that's what it is. And learn more about their product as well.